Okay, good morning everybody, and what's today's topic? Well, we're going to talk about making barbecue smokers and rocket stoves out of scrap steel. And you can do this for money. I've made more than one barbecue for people. It just depends on the scrap that you come across. I'll show you a slideshow, give you lots of ideas. You can hit the pause key whenever you want to. Just take a look. You can make your own sketches, drawings, and what have you. Now, the one thing I do to help sell things, I keep lots of photos on my phone in a gallery, and when I'm at work or I'm around, and this is what works for me, I have people flip through, find something that they like, and then I go, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. This is when I can do it. And I know roughly in my head and the cost of materials because I either go to the steel supply yard or I might have enough scrap laying around. You give them a good price and you go ahead and you make it for them. Other people have a welder and they start asking questions like, well, where did you buy this? Or how did you do that? And I don't mind telling them. I'm not trying to make a living off doing this, but fuels my hobby and you can make good money selling things with your welder. So I'll show you the slides. We'll talk about it from there. And I'm going to just go through them rather quickly. So I have a lot of them to show you. And it can end up being a long video. So whenever you want, just hit, like I said, hit the pause key. And I'll make a couple of comments give you a couple tips and tricks along the way. Let's go ahead and get started. Here we go. Okay, here's the first one up. One of the first questions that I get is, hey, where are you getting the wheels from? Harbor Freight. I wouldn't buy them really anywhere else. I mean, it's for a barbecue, and these wheels are great. They roll around real smoothly, easily on concrete or across rough surfaces. But like I said, pause this if you want to make some notes or you want to make something like this. This is a smoke cooker. He's not totally done with it, but it's a nice start. Now here's one similar, and you can't see the base of it. The base of it's a square box. That's the firebox, and you can see in the middle here where he's got a round pipe that comes up into this tank. And you can see where he made the slide out barbecue grill tray there. But he did a good job. He's even got a little Harbor Freight light up on here, I guess, while he's working out in the garage. You can pause this, make some notes. You don't have to make it exact. You can make it to your own design. But he took an old tank, and this is what he did. He made a barbecue. Now here's another view of it. And you can see the slide out tray, which I thought was clever. He just used angle iron on the inside to make his rails. And it works great. And he put great big wheels on it because of the weight. So another good idea. Okay, now here's a tall one where somebody took a big, large tank and he cut this and he went ahead and he put it on an old rim. So the one caution, I've done these before, is after you trace out on the face of these how you're going to cut it. Then what I would do if I were you is cut the one long line where the hinges are, using a 4.5-inch angle grinder with a cutoff wheel and some kind of a square edge, and you cut that. Now before you cut the other 3 verticals and the other horizontal, weld your hinges on there first. Then go ahead and cut the sides and then cut the bottom part of it across. I've done these before. These can come way out of whack on you real easily. So if you make that first cut, weld the hinges on, it tends to keep it in place. So there's a tip, but I'll show you a better close-up in a few minutes. Okay, here's the same one. We'll open. He's got multiple racks. And it's a good idea. You can build the fire at the bottom, of course, and then, it comes up through it and cooks it. But that's just showing you the inside of it. Okay, here's more of like a fire pit that somebody made. Again, nice design. You'll have to figure out a way whether you're using a jigsaw with a metal blade, to make your, arc cuts and stuff. But it's not, it's not a very complicated thing if you want to make a firebox for outside. Okay, now here's another barbecue that somebody did, and you can see where he's got the large tube steel, and he's got the wheels, and then how he made the box and the pull-out racks, and he did everything. So if this is something that you have the time and the money for, you can make them big. You can make them to where they'll latch onto the back of your truck to tow them too if you wanted to. Well, I'll show you pictures of that downstream, but this is another idea for you. Okay, now here's somebody that took some small little tanks and made some baby barbecues. It's not something I'm into, but look, I thought I'd throw it up here because other people might be interested in making small things like this. Now here's one where somebody, obviously he had a plasma cutter, and he laid out the shape of the dog on the face of this firebox, and he went ahead and he cut it out. So it's a nice little addition. He put it out in his yard around a safe brick area, so because you're going to get a lot of embers and sparks that come flying out of it once you start this thing. I thought it was clever. It was a very nice looking thing when he was done. Now, one of the questions I got is, how do you make the stand for the rim that, you know, these bigger tanks or fireboxes sit on? You can make the bottom on the rim, just like you see here in the picture. You can add legs to it if you want. But a clever thing to do is to create this little slide gate that you see here right in the middle. Because after, you know, everything's cooled down and whatever, and you want to clean this, you can just reach under it and you can pull that forward. You can wash and clean it out real quick and easy. And I've done this before. This makes a really nice addition to something if you're making it for somebody. Now in this picture is the same one that I just showed you, but it's flipped over, and you can see where he used expanded metal. He used some scrap steel to create that plate. So then that, or you know, the foundation for it, or the support. You can throw your coals and whatever in there, and you can start burning them, and throw wood in there, whatever you want to do. That also depends on if you're using the base of this for like a barbecue or a smoker, or you're using it for just a fire pit outside. Here's another example of the same thing. He put handles on this one, and he used a different kind of corrugated or, you know, expanded metal, and he laid it in there among those cross pieces. So you could do that too. Okay, this guy's just working on his firebox, and you can see here he's put those wheels on it. It's similar to that very first picture I showed you when we first started. It gives you an idea on how he's routing the pipe and what he's trying to accomplish here. This is a work in progress. Okay, now this is a rocket stove. You know, you can read about them if you've never heard of them. These are fast and easy to make if you have large enough pieces of steel. Now you can also go to the steel supply yard, like I said, take a look in their remnants or their cutoffs. A lot of times they do a lot of pre-cutting for contractors and people in the area. They don't want the cutoffs, they throw them into a pile. They usually will sell them to you inexpensively. Sometimes they still want, you know, the full length price on the steel, but it's still much cheaper than trying to buy large pieces. And you'll find making these is a lot easier because you can just go pick through the scrap bin as long as you know what you're going out there to buy. But this is a quick, easy rocket stove. This gives you one idea. This is just another way that you can put, you know, he's putting pots and pans on this, or kettles or what have you, but you can make a stand the similar way out of old horseshoes and railroad spikes. So this is just showing you how to make a stand for things. I mean, whether or not you can use it in the barbecue smoker, you know, fire pit thing is another story, but I threw it up here because I found it in the same forum that, you know, we were all sitting around talking about. So here's a very simple barbecue that somebody made. I mean, take a look at the picture, make some notes. You can do the same thing. He did it fast, easy. I mean, he's got it up for sale. You can do the same thing if somebody wants it that simple, or you can add on to it. It's your choice here. Okay, now here's one somebody did, and now they start to get very complex. He probably cut out a lot of steel, especially the sheet steel, to make the scales for this. But you can see, I mean, he did a great job on this. I mean, I thought this was really cool looking if you want to make something like this for your yard. Definitely worth, I mean, taking a look at. You can pause it, like I said, make notes. You could do the same thing yourself. The next question I got is somebody goes, this is fine, and I don't have a starting point. You know, what would you recommend? And so I threw this up here. I found it out on the web. I mean, you can add your own dimensions to this. This, of course, was in millimeters, but you can turn around. It's giving you the basic idea. You know, figure it out in terms of inches or whatever you want. And then you can go ahead and start laying out and cutting, you know, your sheet steel. And you can use for the table part of this, like I said, you can go to the thrift stores, and I do this a lot of times when I'm running low on angle iron, and they have mismatched bed frame rails. And they're willing to sell them to you, or sometimes they just give them away. If I say, well, look, I'll buy this and this, and what are you going to do, you know, with those mismatched ones? And they'll just go, well, just take them. Just go ahead and take them. We're going to throw them in a dumpster anyway. Just take them. And so, you know, they make a little bit off of me because I bought something, and then I turn around and they give me all this steel. I bring it home. I immediately use my chop saw, and I cut it all up. Then I go and I add it to my little steel supply, you know, bin that I have. And then I have all of these cutoffs that I can use for future projects. So another little tip for you to consider as we go forward. Okay, now this is one I thought was really slick that the guy did. Not real sure how he did the legs on this. But you can make the legs to your own design too. But he took old truck rims, stacked them, and on the inside of that top one, you know, he put expanded metal. So he's made himself a little barbecue / fire pit for outside, where I don't know if he goes camping with it or what he does. But I thought this was a clever design also. And don't forget to put the little gate in the bottom for cleaning it out. Okay, so here's another firebox, slash barbecue. You could use it for that too. And you can see the design on how he did this, and he just used simple angle iron for the legs of it. And you can get this round steel out at the steel supply place. I mean, you can buy like 10 feet of it for like $3. I mean, depending on, the diameter, whether you want 1/4 inch, 3/8, or what you want. So, and it's also in the cutoff bends too. So I always look around. I pick it up when I can because I know I can make handles out of it and a lot of different things. Okay, I went ahead and exploded it up a little bit better. Sorry, I didn't make the picture perfect when we first started, but now you can, you get an idea on how he did this. It's not that hard. So you should consider one of these too. They're fast, they're easy. I've made about 5 of these and sold them. So, I mean, these sell real easy because they're very portable for people and they can move them all around their yards. So, like I said, keep photos on your phone. So one of the next questions somebody had said is, look, when you need to make, covers, or you need to make plates that go over where these air gaps are, like on the lid and stuff, and you need to bend this metal, how are you doing it, or how are you going about it? Steel supply store, you get cold rolled steel, just like you see here. This is a photograph I got off of the web, but I do it the same way. I have a round tank, and I can bend things in an arc, or I can bend them in a complete circle. So the clamps here are inexpensive clamps I got out at Harbor Freight. Clamp it around something and start working your way around it. Now, if I'm bending something that's a little bit thicker, I do have an oxyacetylene torch. But if you're not bending, real thick steel, you can easily go around this by using these clamps and just keep going all the way around it. When you make the circle, weld it, take it off, you can grind it down, you can even recut them if you want to make a half circle. So this is how I do it. I use a lot of basic hand tools, and I have just, from the web and learning and whatever else, I've just figured my own way of doing things without buying, very expensive tools. Anyway, that answers the question. Let me move on. Okay, here's another simple one somebody did just out of pipe. Just made a firebox and then used some sheet steel up on top. But make sure you get some decent thickness. And what he did is he just welded and bent it, and he made himself like a grill. You can do this too. Steel supply store, at least the one that I go to, has lots and lots and lots of sheet steel in different thicknesses. So this is a quick, easy project you can do to make a barbecue also. Okay, here's another one that somebody did, and you can see where he has a rotating lid where it can swing out, which is good, and then you can put your hot dogs, meat, whatever on there. You swing it and rotate it right back over it. It's just a piece of pipe welded to the side of this round tank, and a smaller piece of pipe that fit inside of the first one. Then he just welded this cross member. You can see if you look at the expanded metal, and then that band that I just showed you in the last picture, he bent around it like I showed you, and then he welded it, and this is how he made that round top. And then he put a handle on it, and now he's in the phase of shooting it with primer. But that's basically how it's done. You can do the inside, you can put tabs in there, you can use expanded metal, you can put the grill in there, you can put it on the outside. You have lots of variations to think about when you're doing these, and like I said, tweak it to your own design. Here's another example of what somebody did out of old tire rims, and you can see he used this, this rectangular steel. He cut it at different angles, welded it up, got the little cross members, the round stuff, and he's got little pads on the bottom out of thick steel for the, the pads for the legs. Put the old rims on there. He cut the hole out. These are all done with basic tools. So everything that I pulled off of the web, I tried to find things that were done with basic tools where you didn't have to buy anything expensive or elaborate. There's another stove that somebody took, an old tank, got himself some round steel. You can buy this, even if you had to, you could get, you buy the steel pretty much anywhere, but I keep urging you to go to a steel supply store, or if you have a salvage yard. I have a salvage yard, they don't sell to the public, so I always go to the steel supply store. Anyway, this is another way you can make a barbecue pit for outside. I thought it doesn't look that complicated. Again, basic hand tools. Okay, here's the same kind of tanks where they've been all prepped, painted, and whatever. I thought it was very clever that he created, that wood storage area right there in the bottom under the one. And then you can see where that seam is, where he seamed, another tank together, of course. And then he probably put, the grating and everything in there that created, the firebox part of it. But I thought that was clever, and he uses it for, outside. So it's another variation you can think about. Here's one that somebody did that's time consuming because you're creating all these octagons with the expanded steel. But it's kind of clever. I mean, these all have handles made out of railroad spikes if you look close enough in the picture. And you can pull these, back and forth out of the way over the actual fire pit itself. And you can see that round hole in the middle there. That's his clean out, like we were discussing before, where you can put something that slides back and forth to make your clean out real easy. And around it, you can see where he's made, it's like a tabletop. So this guy spent some time on this, and it turned out nice. I haven't made anything like this, but I put it up here for other people that may be interested. Here's another basic, very simple one. It's got the swing out grill like we talked about. Okay, now here's a much larger one that somebody did. In his, he put this little kettle, this little round can thing to catch all of the char, the debris, and everything else will fall right into there. You could do it that way too. I suppose it's a good idea. I use the little slide gates that we talk about, but you can see here where he put them down on wheels. Again, you can get the wheels out at Harbor Freight. It's all made out of, or I would make most of these. I've made one similar to this, was what I'm trying to say, out of just angle iron that I bought out at the thrift store. So another good idea to think about. Okay, this guy went way over the top. I put it on here to see what can be done if you've got the time and you have the creativity. This is incredible. He made this, creature looking thing, like, something you'd see on Alien, the movie. And here's another angle. I mean, if you're interested, I'm just showing you different angles so you can replicate it or something similar. And there's a close-up of it right there. I mean, this guy did an incredible job on this. I mean, I was like, wow, when I saw this. I mean, I thought it was amazing. Really, really cool. Okay, now here's a picture of some more rocket stoves. Now, this guy, I wrote him, he makes rocket stoves with his welder all the time. Sells them all over the place. And he's got a little side business going. Sent me a picture of it. He said, hey, look, these are not hard to make. This is how I make them. Just take a look at the rectangular steel. You can see how easy it is to make the feet for them. You can see how easy it is, to create where you put the wood in. And on top of all of his, he told me he always puts this barbecue kind of atop with expanded metal, because besides just being a rocket stove, you can actually cook lunch, dinner, or whatever you want to on there. I thought it was a very clever idea. I thank him, for sending me, the picture and making the suggestion. But yeah, I have these on my phone too. I've only made a couple of them for people locally, but in your area, you might find people that really want these and they would start buying them. They're not hard to make. They're fast, usually simple. Paint them any color you want, and then start selling them. Okay, now here's one where somebody goes, well, I don't know the dimensions. Okay, you can use a conversion, convert this over into inches. This gives you the basic starting point, like a boilerplate for you to go ahead and begin making these rocket stoves. Then whether you want the handle on them or whether you want the legs or however you want to do it, you can. But this gives you a basic idea in terms of dimension, because one of the first questions somebody usually asks is, well, I don't know how long, and I don't know how tall, and I don't know this. And it's like, okay, here's your basics. Okay, you want to make them a little bit longer. You want to make them out of, much wider and thicker steel. You want to make them out of round instead of square. You can do all those things. This gives you your starting point, though. Here's another one where it's showing you where the guy on his, he made that little slide out down below to catch all of the debris and the junk. And that's how he keeps his cleaned out. He also put these little welded hinges on here where he can close it off. Now here's another rocket stove, kind of a setup that somebody made for the inside of their garage, and they put this protective barrier around it. You could do that too. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing and why, but it keeps it, I guess, away from the walls and so forth. Okay, now here's another rocket stove. You can see how the guy did his. Not complicated. Here's a barbecue pit where somebody spent a lot of time. He's not done. He doesn't have the corrugated stuff on there yet for the grilling. But I thought this was incredibly creative. This is wow. I was just like, this is cool. I mean, he really spent some time to do this. I thought it was neat. Okay, here's another barbecue pit, but it's more of a smoker. Now he has it sitting on a wood box because he hasn't made the frame for it yet to sit on. But over on the far right, that's where the firebox is that he's making. You can see over here on top where he's got chimney coming up and he's welded hinges on there. And he's got all of his racks in there and stuff. So this is, like I said, work in progress, but this is how he's doing it. Okay, so here's a firebox. You can see where he's starting to make it in his garage and how he's doing it. Okay, there's another shot of the creature from the front, and that ends the slideshow. So use the pause key. You can drop me a comment below, but like I said, these are all done with basic hand tools, except for a couple of them where you use the plasma cutter. But get yourself a bunch of scrap steel saved up. Whenever you go to those thrift stores, ask them about the throwaway bed frame rails. Bring them home, cut them up, make yourself a pile of angle iron kind of steel, and anything else you're missing can easily be gotten out of the steel supply store. Keep the photos on your phone. That's what helps me. That's my biggest selling thing because I show them to people. If something else works for you, I think that's fine. I'm just sharing you what works for me, and I just keep my prices very reasonable because it keeps the work flowing in. I'm the Home Handyman. I hope you click subscribe. Follow me. Give me a thumbs up. If you have a comment or a photograph or something that shows something better that's just as easy to make for people, drop it in the comment below. Let me know. And I thank you folks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.